Welcome to Your Money Guides, brought to you by Interface Financial Planning.
Getting used to the new normal. Today, Alan thought he'd talk about a typical week in his life, except that typical is the wrong word now. Everything is still new and normal is different for all of us. Alan thought he'd regroup and examine what his new normal week looked like, what he likes about it and what it's taught him and his clients too. Plus, it's January. It's a new year. With a new year comes that fresh start feeling, and that fresh start is a new normal fresh start if you get Alan's drift. It's been a good start to January. Alan's meetings continue to be 100% Zoom, and he has to say if there's one positive to this pandemic, it's the ability to see so many people from up and down the country and overseas on his computer screen at the drop of a hat. As an example, on Monday, Alan spoke to a client who lives in Tower Bridge, London, 100 miles away from Alan. Now, there's no more travelling miles for a meeting with half the day gone. That's not to say Alan doesn't miss face-to-face. He does, but he feels he gets a lot more done really quickly. Then on Wednesday, he had a Microsoft Teams meeting with a networking group called Nucleus. He's been a member for the last few years, and usually their meetings take place in Edinburgh 3 or 4 times a year. It's a big journey, a long and tiring day, but this week everyone tuned in online at 8:45 in the morning, and by 12:30 p.m. Alan was finished and looking forward to his lunch. The group's going to continue with online meetings for 2021, and they've already discussed that in 2022 they'll probably do a combination of a couple of face-to-face group meetings and the others through the screen. Last year, a normal diary would mean Alan having client meetings at 10 in the morning and 2 p.m, with phone calls beforehand and at lunchtime. He'd have a client in the office for a face-to-face meeting. The meeting would probably be drawn out into 2 hours, mainly because most of Alan's clients had done a long 50-mile or more trip. He couldn't possibly finish a meeting in 20 minutes, so they'd find lots of other things to talk about. Now, with Zoom, Alan can make these meetings short for 20 minutes or half an hour and cover off one topic, booking another meeting in a week or a couple of weeks to discuss the next topic. It works well, another sign that ways of working have changed permanently, and perhaps it's for the better. Another Zoom meeting Alan had this week was with an old client from Durham who's moved nearby. She has quite a bit of money that she wants to invest, and she asked Alan about ethical investments. Ethical investing is a real buzz term at the moment, and Alan has to say he loves it. They both got talking about what's important in life, family, friends, the good in humans, and actually that's another positive that's come from the pandemic. People show they care so much more. Another positive is that more and more people who wouldn't normally use a computer now find they're tech savvy. Alan had a client this morning, that's Friday. She's 68 years young. Pre-COVID, she'd never used Zoom before, and now she's a pro. She's online all the time, and it made Alan chuckle when she cut their meeting short because she had to excuse herself to prepare for her next Zoom meeting. On Tuesday morning, Alan had a call out of the blue from a man that he hadn't heard from since 2004. Unfortunately, his mother had died suddenly of a heart attack the day before. When Alan inquired about his father, he was told he had dementia and was in a care home, so he didn't even know his spouse had passed away. The crux of the call was that there was no LPA in place, and do read Alan's other blog on the importance of LPAs. That meant that with the father not in a fit state to deal with the will and property, which was left entirely to him, everything would be passed over to the care home to cover their fees. It also meant costly court of protection procedure. Alan distinctly remembers telling this couple when they were alive and healthy to put an LPA in place. It made Alan wonder yet again, why do people put things off? These types of calls happen scarily often. Putting things off creates obstacles at a later date and impacts life quality. Alan only ever advises doing things to protect his clients from misfortune later on. On a positive note, Alan had a Zoom on Thursday with a divorcee who's in her 60s, and she agreed immediately to put her LPA in place. Actually, the above was a pertinent call for Alan's situation too, because this week Alan went to a COVID-safe Boots, another new normal, to replace a pair of glasses, but ended up having an audiology exam. Alan's hearing hasn't been playing ball for a few years now, and he knew deep down that he needed some help. So Alan tried a pair of hearing aids. When Alan put them in, suddenly it was like the sun blazed out from behind the clouds. He could hear crisply, he could recognise background noise, and it made him wonder what he'd missed out on. Then he was told the price, £2,500. The audiologist told him to go away and think about it. After all, it was a large sum of money to part with. Alan did think about it and was ready to say no until someone reminded him that he would be putting off something important. Something that would give him better quality of life, and he's a life planner after all. He's all about better quality of life and not putting things off. Yet there was Alan getting annoyed that someone hadn't spent the money on an LPA, and he was umming and ahhing over whether or not he should spend the money on himself to improve his own life. So he's taking his own advice this time and he's buying the hearing aids. Going forward, this new normal will modify once more. Alan's ideal would be to conduct the technical bit online. He still wants to do the face-to-face meetings as they build trust and relationships instead of sitting there just noting facts and figures. So perhaps he'll do the technical online and then a real person-to-person meeting to get to know his client better. Although Zoom does show the human side of life because they're generally at home and sometimes you get family or pet interruptions. This morning, Alan shared a screen and showed someone what button to use, but he got it wrong. They both had a good laugh, showing that you can still be human on Zoom. Alan would love to know what you think about the new normal and how it's changed your working week, for the better or not. Thank you for listening.
For more information, visit our website at interfacefinancialplanning.co.uk.